this, our fifth episode of The Longer Miles, brought to you by the Warrior Trail Foundation. We welcome Chad Pritchard, United States Army Special Operations Civil Affairs soldier, who shares his story of getting into the Army, navigating some challenges there, and the ongoing difficulties that he has to maneuver through since separation from the Army. Chad has some pretty severe disabilities as a result of his service, but he doesn't let that get in the way of him going out and serving and working with other veterans and trying to continue to live his best life. With his service dog Woody by his side most of the time, I've gotten to know Chad very well and learned there's a lot more to Chad Pritchard than most would ever know in a casual meeting of him. Recently, we got to spend some amazing miles together towards the end of the Cherry Springs 110, which is a Warrior Trail Foundation fundraising event that we do in Pennsylvania late in the fall each year. Chad came in from Colorado to do that this year and unfortunately experienced a significant loss of his own while trying not to get lost in the Pennsylvania woods. In this episode, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of life's lessons, but more importantly, I think Chad's message that he wants to share at the end of this is a fantastic message and one that truly resonates with those of us at the Warrior Trail Foundation, where we believe in resilience. Without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to the Longer Miles podcast, brought to you by Warrior Trail Foundation. And today we have a distinguished guest. We have Chad Pritchard with us today, who, it's going to be an interesting story about how Chad and I met and became friends and got to really know each other over the last year and a half. And I'm really anxious for this conversation and looking forward to sharing this with our listening audience. So welcome, Chad.
Hey, Chris, I'm glad to be here, man. I really am thankful. Let's dig in wherever you want.
I will. Well, let's start by tell us about your military career.
Yeah, I joined the Army in 1995, not knowing, people join the military for different reasons. I did it because, I'd seen others do it before me. And as far as like friends of family said, oh, he left for the military. Or he was able to go here. And I was looking for a way out. I was looking for a way to get away from my situation. I didn't want to go to college at that time. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do something. And when I joined the Army, I just found that I was really good at it and ended up, making it all the way to special operations through my career and really loving that. I served a total of 11 years, two combat tours. And like many of us, I was planning on doing 20 and serving a full 20, but the tolls of war and deployments ended it short for me in 2006.
Yeah. Where were you in 2006?
I had just ETS. I was in Kansas City where I grew up, just at that time, I was pretty lost because after my first deployment, I came home to a divorce. Basically, I was battling court systems from basically 2004 to 2006 between, my losing my marriage and also, my finances were a disaster because of that. Basically, I was just in a really dark place in Kansas City.
Yeah. Talk to me about your deployments. Where were you? If you want to share with us what you experienced.
Yeah, I mean, my first big deployment was Iraq, 2003 on the invasion. My Civil Affairs Battalion was attached to the 4th Infantry Division. At that time, 4th Infantry Division held troops in Colorado and in Fort Hood, Texas. All of my deployments came actually out of Fort Bragg or Pope Airfield, attached to Fort Bragg. We basically were stationed in Fort Bragg. Originally, we had sent out our primo gear on boats headed for Turkey. That was our original landing point with the 4th Infantry Division to attack from the north. As many know, Turkey, and for whatever reason, did not allow us to come in from that angle. Ended up going to Kuwait. I remember we didn't even link up with the 4th Infantry Division until Kuwait. There's a lot of people don't understand what civil affairs is and what we do and what our job is and how we operate. And so it was kind of interesting having to build a relationship with the regular army to teach them what we do and how we do it. I think now, today, 20 years later, I think the world has realized what we do because we were
Yeah.
very much behind the scenes a lot of times, but war really brought us to the front of the lines with the infantry, with everybody. Our first landing spot in Iraq was Bakuba, Iraq, which is just
Hmm.
northeast of Baghdad. I served 8 months in that area where they ended up sending us to a few places. Ended up finalizing my rotation in Iraq into Crit for
Okay.
about a month. I got to live the life of luxury in one of the palace grounds for my final month. It was so now I'm at it nice. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not all the palace grounds were still luxury when we got there in 2006, you know? Pretty rough.
Yeah, I'm sure some Joes messed it up or war. Who knows?
Yeah. I
Or
think a
everything was probably
combination of the
looted.
two.
They were probably all looted by then too.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. So in civil affairs, you were, in essence, the old saying, trying to win the hearts and minds of the people, right? And trying to help with the battle from that front. And certainly it exposed you to some risks, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we as civil affairs didn't live on a fob with the regular army. We lived in the heart of the cities. We lived, right in the middle of it. I mean, they knew we were there. We weren't hiding. We ran in Bakuba, Iraq. We actually ran one of the largest civil military operations centers, which is a center meaning people could come to it with their problems, their concerns, their needs. One thing that a lot of times in winning hearts and minds and offering those services that you speak of is that we gather intel. We're one of the highest intel gathering, and they call it passive intel because we're not asking for it. They just give it to us. Unfortunately, the way a lot of the regular army works and the way a lot of intel worked, and you saw, I don't know if it was like this in '06, is like some of it was good intel and some of it was, we didn't act fast enough because of our chains of having to run through the red tape of it. So I think intel, might have been good today. And then by the time the army acted on it, 24 hours, 36 hours, it was bad, so we could only do our best with what we gathered.
Yeah,
I still miss a lot of those people that we built those relationships.
yeah. Yeah, there's a huge difference between intel and actionable intel, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, as a fire support officer or effects, fires and effects officer, which is the softer version that we changed it to later on. I definitely dealt a lot with targeting, and you get a target, you get the information to create a target, and that target might be a building, it might be a area, it might be a actual person and all those things. And just because you have intel on that target doesn't mean that it's actionable intel. You really need to know how recent it was, how accurate it was, and whether or not it's still real, right? So I definitely know that battle. It's what I lived every day in my numerous combat missions.
Yeah, it was cool.
The
I got to work with a lot of the lower enlisted in that area, the fisters.
Yeah,
Towards the end, they were kind of bored. Technology, it's almost with drones and everything else, technology for fisters has kind of gone away, in all honesty. And so we just kind of took them as our redheaded stepchild and said, "You want to go on some missions with us and provide support?" We knew that they knew the number to you directly, so we were like, "Heck yeah! If we ever got in trouble, you
exactly.
guys know who to call."
For sure, man. So you came home from Iraq with some challenges, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of us that served in war saw, no matter, I don't know what years. I mean, all the deployments affected us in one way or another. Me, I didn't realize that all the small blasts, that all the minor concussions, that I mean, just the adding up of just all the traumas and deaths and everything that, when I first went there, for example, like the first suicide bomber, like my heart dropped.
Yeah.
It just dropped, and Iraq changed me into the point where, like, by the end of leaving Iraq, I'm making fun of these people because that was how we dealt with trauma, as humor, dark humor. And as you know, and many of us know, that like it doesn't translate into the civilian world real well. And it has the survival instincts we use to survive those and don't work well here in the United States amongst our families or on the streets or in our cars. The techniques that we use to save our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is interesting to hear you say that, because when I stepped into Iraq in 2006, I couldn't believe what some of the people around me were saying. I was like, this is a tragedy. How can you not see that? And by the time I left, I was like, yeah, good riddance, right? And all of that is just a switch that you throw, to navigate it, because it's the only option that you have. And that's really hard to convey to people. And then what's really hard to convey, and that people just, when I say people, the general population just doesn't understand that you don't come home and migrate back into what we call civilian life overnight, right? And it's interesting, Chad. I just read an article about this not too long ago, talking about, in World War II, World War I, even Vietnam, when you left combat, it took you weeks, maybe even a month or two to get home. And
Yeah.
in today's world, our soldiers, sailors, and airmen come back off the battlefield, and they might be sitting at the dinner table with their family in less than 24 hours. And it's a really weird environment, and makes it challenging to. You don't have necessarily the time to process, to adapt, and all those other things. And I found I'm sure this was the case for you, but one of the biggest challenges when you came home from a deployment was to find that everything had gone on without you. And it was sort of weird, because at some point you feel like, while you're over there, like the rest of the world has been put on pause, but it's absolutely not the case, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they tried to teach us culture shock of invading Iraq, of coming into a new area, and I will still swear to this day, coming home was harder. Coming home, like, for the reasons you're talking, the fact that, like, the stuff on the radio was different, but the news was different. The way they were spinning, the news was different. You had now trust issues with the news and people and politics. And so we were jaded, but we were also, like, confused. It was like a weird mental place to be. And and I know exactly what you mean. It's hard to explain. It just really was a culture shock ultimately.
Yeah. So tell me, let's change gears and tell me how you got into being a runner and eventually an ultra runner.
Well, I mean, tying back to, coming home to a dark place, I became an addict. I mean, I didn't choose to be an addict. I found a couple beers, started that helped me cope in an evening. And, with tolerance and everything else, that fast forwarded to 8 years. I mean, I was a full blown alcoholic drug user, just trying to do the same things with two beers. I never saw myself as being an addict, but I was a mess. And I think running is something that I found once I gave all that up. Once I got sober, and I was trying to just figure out what to do and how to do life differently. And when I started running, I mean, I couldn't even run a city block. I mean, I was a mess physically. That the addiction and everything just really physically ruined me. And thankfully, by the grace of God, I was able to just start moving. And with time, my body did heal. And with a lot of nutrition and a lot of help from some organizations, I learned that it was just something I was decent at. And it helped calm my mind. Running helped. I could be in, you could call it PTSD, anxiety, whatever the phrase is, prior to a run. And I couldn't put A, B, C, and D together. I'd be like, it's C, A, B, and D, and I don't know what to do with these things. And then all of a sudden I'm 3 miles into a run, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, A goes first, and then B, and then C, and then D. And I don't know what it is about running, or the runner's high, or whatever it is. That's probably what I would explain as a runner's high to me, is the chaos I'm in all of a sudden comes to light, and I just have focus. And I'm really thankful for that. And, like many other runners, the more you run, the more you go, and the more you learn, the farther we want to go. I mean, the farther we realize we can go, the farther distance we can go. And ultimately, that's how guys like you and I meet, because we share that passion. We understand the work it takes, the sacrifice it takes, similar to how the military operated. I think, we have a weird discipline in us that if we set a goal in our mind and we use what the military taught us, it works really well.
Yeah, for sure. And, I've gotten to know you a little bit, quite a bit over the last year and a half, and we've had some amazing conversations around the challenges of ultra running. And, like towing the line and not knowing what the outcome's going to be. and all the things that could go wrong, and then we always get surprised or slapped with something we weren't expecting. And just talk to us a little bit about how that has really helped you navigate staying sober and moving forward with your life despite traumatic brain injury and PTSD and divorce and all the challenges you've overcome in life.
Yeah, I mean, I think the running part, thankfully, I'm gifted in it. I didn't know that, like, in the military, running 2 miles in 11 minutes or less was good. It was just checking the box. No, if I would have known that, if someone would have taken me at that age, holy cow, dude, it might be a different story. I might have been, a sponsored athlete or something. But later on in life, I think I'm glad I didn't, because, I didn't really start ultra running until my late 30s. I didn't even I find it more enjoyable at this age. And the one thing I like about the ultra running versus, and why it helps with, like, the PTSD or all that anxiety we're talking about, is that it allows you to slow down and think. It allows you not to have to run 6-minute miles or less, like marathon training or whatever. It allows you to smell the smells and see the sights, and the community around it's even more better. The more people you see out on the trail, it's so well rounded. And to be honest, it doesn't require anything other than good nutrition and the work.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I first met you, Chad, at like 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe later, in let's see here, at Mullis Pass
Mullis Pass on the Colorado Trail.
on the Colorado Trail last August when we were helping Jeff Browning accomplish his FKT on the Colorado Trail. And I was communicating with you because I was coordinating all of our pacers and crew help. I'm getting this text from this guy saying, "Hey, I'm at Leadville. I'm going to get a ride over from Leadville. They're going to drop me off. By the way, I have my service dog. And where do I find you?" And it was hilarious because, I'm like in my van trying to catch 15 minutes of sleep. And, somebody knocks on the van and you're like, "Hey, I'm Chad." I'm like, there he is. It's like,
Yeah.
who does that? They like just get dropped off in the middle of the night at a remote pass on the Colorado Trail with their service dog and like no answer, no guidelines. It's hilarious, man.
Yeah, it all started because of obviously the Warrior Trail Foundation. I don't know. It was interesting because I was at Hard Rock when I learned about the Warrior Trail Foundation. I went to the Ultra tent and was talking with Colby, the athlete director of Ultra, and Kyle Curtan, which Kyle had just set the FKT of the Colorado Trail going the opposite direction from Denver to Durango. I didn't know this was a veteran as well. And he goes, "Hey, Jeff Browning's looking for veterans to support him on his upcoming Colorado Trail FKT." And I mean, I'm an ultra runner and I've spent time on the Colorado Trail, and it was like, yes, I need to be part of this. I need
Yeah,
to
and
be out on
a lot of people don't know that Kyle was in the military as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he talks about it that much.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. And then the first time I met Kyle was like a day later when we were over, because he paced Jeff that night from that section across to up behind Green Mountain, whatever that pass is up there. I forget.
Yeah. I think did he pace all the way to Stony Pass?
Yeah, Stony Pass. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, and we were sitting up there in Stony Pass just getting to know one another that morning. And it was so funny. Remember, we were set up in the wrong place and had to shift at the last second.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
boy, Jeff was not going to be happy if he had to go that extra 120 yards up the hill, right? So
Well, that's how the crewing the whole Colorado Trail was. It's just like
Ex-
flying, especially the San Juans. I mean, we weren't getting much sleep, and the drives were what, 5-6 hours, about the same amount of time as running 20-30 miles.
Right.
Like, I mean, it was those first few nights. I mean, and I joined on day one, first night, and it didn't stop for days. I mean, wow, we could do a podcast just to the crew on that. Holy cow.
I know. For sure. For sure. But, one of my favorite moments of that week, Chad, was when you had been talking about this secretive place called Sergeant's Mesa, right? And we drove up there and you got there despite me blinding you the whole way with my rear lights on my van. But, we got up there just before dusk and we took a little walk out to the middle of that open field and found Sergeant's Mesa and walked around and somewhere I've got some photos from that night. I should probably post on here as maybe our thumbnail for this, but for this
Yeah,
conversation.
it's called the Soldier Stone at Sergeant Mesa's. It's remote, but like somehow it has a huge drawing, as you could see. I don't know who manages that or monitors that or what, but it was pretty. I mean, someone put some money into that because there was all those stones inscribed in French and there's
Yeah.
some other languages. I can't remember all the languages, but it was
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, it obviously is tied to the Vietnam War in some way, shape, or form, but finding any history on who actually did that or anything is damn near impossible. But
Yeah.
it's one of the work projects that we have sort of that we've been exploring with the Warrior Trail Foundation is taking over that segment as trail maintenance. And if we do, I think we'll end up putting quite a bit of effort into maybe cleaning that up and resetting some of those stones. They've been trampled by the cattle over the years and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. I would love it. I would love if we could get that initiative going. I'm sure other people would support you on that.
Yeah, it would be fantastic. But well, let's dive in and talk about, our most recent expedition together where you came to Pennsylvania to undertake our Cherry Springs 110 that we do as a fundraiser for the Warrior Trail Foundation. And let's talk about that experience and what it meant to you.
Yeah, I mean, first off and foremost, this was one of the most intimate races I've ever done. I mean, as far as like, it was not a big race and it was beautiful. Pennsylvania, I didn't understand what a dark sky community was prior to coming to this area. That alone was cool, not having any lights. I mean, I knew it was remote based on the only town that was in 110 miles was a block, maybe two long. I mean, it wasn't very big at all. And I didn't know how like beautiful and rugged and challenging those trails were gonna be. But I mean, I'll tell you what, like I'm ready to come back. I want to have a different outcome at my next time in these trails because as you know, I didn't know how ready I was for that race, but I was feeling good and happy and I was joyful when I started it.
Yeah, for sure. You took off like somebody shot you out of a cannon.
Well, I was also really cold that
Yeah.
morning. So I was like, walking is not gonna warm me up.
No. No, it was surprisingly cold. I mean, we almost never see temperatures that low that early in November. And as you know, the gang that was out for 2.5 days ahead of you on the 220, experienced snow, temperatures in the 20s. It was brutal.
Yeah, we
So,
saw it. I mean, I tell you what, I mean, hats off to those guys and gals that started the 220. I mean, I part of me almost wants to go after it myself, make it my first 200. Part of me does. I don't know if I'm going to yet. I don't know if I just need to redo the 110, but there's no doubt that those trails, you got to be ready for everything. That obviously we saw some really good runners that didn't make it because of gear. I'm working specifically with Katie, which is an angel on the trail that brought me in the last 10 miles. That girl can run and she's a great climber. And I feel like she's like the Energizer Bunny. It's just like nothing will make her stop. And I'm stoked for her because she just didn't make it because of gear. And I'm working with her, helping her get some gear
that's cool.
for survival modes and helping her with my recommendations. And I think that like, Pablo, Jordan, the other guys out there, like, wow, to watch them do it and get it done was really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. So, unfortunately, you came into this event with a pretty heavy heart. And you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, my family in the last 6 months has just really been going through a lot. Probably the last couple of years, actually. My mom's been fighting cancer for 2 years. My grandpa, like, just 80 in his late 80s, just died like a couple months ago. Also, before the race, he got in a car wreck to found out he had brain cancer. And he died pretty fast. It was like once he was diagnosed, it was fast, and then and at the time we thought my stepdad was going to go because he's been on hospice with dementia forever. He was put on hospice sometime in the summer, and we even said our goodbyes to him. Like we thought he was going, and that didn't happen. He's still around, and I literally got the call at the airport heading to Pennsylvania and Denver that My mom was in the hospital. She wasn't doing well, but, she was getting taken care of. The last conversation I had with her, she said she was in a lot of peace and she really just had no more fight in her. It was hard to hear my mom say that because my mom, my whole life, was my number one fighter. She was the number one person that, like, when the world gave up on me when I was going through my addictions, she never did. When the world didn't understand my chaotic PTSD or feeling lost, when a lot of my friends or exes gave up on me, my mom's always been there. And matter of fact, the grief of just that in my life, like the other day, I'm still going through grief of losing her during that race, man. I still having moments of I just want to call her and I can't.
Yeah.
I can't tell her or ask her about like a little what her thoughts are on this or you know, just want to tell her some good news. But yeah, that race is like the perfect thing. It was like the perfect storm for me as far as like it gave me an opportunity to like really process the death of my mother. It really helped me. All of you guys, like in one way, shape, or form, made me realize how loved I was and how cared for I was, and how how this all went down. And just so your listeners understand, is that I was having the race of my life. I was just feeling good and light and fast, and I was running with Matt, which ended up winning it all, and we were just enjoying the Shenandoah or whatever what something Hancock, or I can't remember those trail systems. The STS,
Yes.
the STS trail systems of Pennsylvania were like just gorgeous. And I was really impressed with the climbs. I was impressed because coming from Colorado, you go to places and they're like, oh, that wasn't really a climb. They were long and they were good and I can't remember why on one, like probably the first big climb. And I don't know why they do this in the middle of the climb. There's a sign like in the middle of the climb that says cardiac hill.
Yeah.
I'm like, they should have put that at the beginning.
Yeah.
I had to get a picture by it. But like Matt and I were just having so much fun running through the woods. And Matt was in a different race than I was unsupported and he was crewed. It was like we were competing, but we weren't competing. It was more for fun. I mean, I think him and I ran the first 35 miles together. Back, we yo-yoed. We were together. We yo-yoed a little bit. He took a lot longer breaks than I did. But it was really fun to get to know him and run on those trails with him. And he was all I cared about. Like when things went south for me, that he won. I was like, I want to make sure he finishes and wins. And it was interesting because, like I was saying, we were yo-yoing and I was at mile like 40 or 45 when I got the phone call from my brother to tell me my mom had just passed. And it really disoriented me. And on those trails and how you've got this race set up, the last thing you want is disorientation in those woods. Like I got scratches on my legs because of that phone call. Like I lost the trail.
Yeah.
And so I think between on the phone with my brother and hearing the news and not being able to navigate accordingly, which by the way, I am totally revamping how I do that. And I'm stoked that the InReach 3 came out because I think that's the route I'm going to go for the next time. And anybody that does this race, spend the money on the navigation because I tried it on my watch and it just like destroyed the battery. It just really killed it. But anyway, I'm regressing. When I got that call, I just couldn't navigate. I couldn't use my phone to find the trails and my heart sunk. I went from being light and fast and free to now heavy and lost and just it was dark. I mean, it was really dark. The dark sky community. I mean, it was really dark. And and then so I got off the phone with him. I'm like, I can't keep doing this phone call because I'm gonna run into more bushes. And I ended up losing the phone, hanging up the phone with him. And the first thing I did was I called the girl I've been dating, and I was just so thankful she answered. I told her, I'm like, honey, I can't navigate. I'm heavy. I'm still probably an hour or maybe more over second place. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to feel strong. And I know the one thing my mom would tell me right now, she doesn't want me to suffer. If anything that my mom would want for me is to not suffer. She knows I've been through enough. She knows that us veterans have been through enough suffering. And so with the calmest, quietest voice of my girlfriend, she just said, Just don't quit. Just don't quit. Whatever you do, I don't care what that is. Just don't quit this race.
Wow.
And I just was so thankful for that, because I was looking for her to tell me it's okay to quit. I was looking at her to tell me that it was that it would be okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I was still, I don't know how many miles from you guys, minimum at least 3 probably, to where I'd have to go at least 3 miles to get to a road. And
Probably more like 5 or 7.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. It was just, I was so lost where I was on the trail. I was so lost. I didn't care about the race anymore, like as far as placement or how I was doing. It was more like, what do I do with all these feelings? And it's crazy because I ended up down by this beautiful creek and I saw a tent set up and a light was on in the tent, and it was Jordan. And I just walked up to him and I said, dude, I go, I don't know what to do right now. I just got off the phone with my brother and he told me my mom died. And it was like between my brother's call, my girlfriend's call, and Jordan's call now, it was like everything lined up perfectly, because Jordan's like, dude, that is the craziest thing, because I'm going to share something with you about me that you don't know. And I was like, what's that? He goes, I was doing Cocodona 250 back in May. And he goes, my dad, excuse me, I got the news on day 1 that my dad committed suicide. And he goes, I talked to all my family, and all my family kind of said the same thing. They're like, just run it in his honor. Run the Cocodona 250 in your dad's honor. And it's crazy because I actually met Jordan at Cocodona 250. I was pacing a friend, and it's crazy because, we crewing and pacing wears you out, just almost like running. And I know I met him, but I couldn't put 2 and 2 together that was him. But when we started talking, I'm like, that was you. We had met actually in Cocodona when he was finishing that race coming down Eldon into Flagstaff. And he just is like, he just got into my head. And out of that creek was like a pretty straight up climb, and I couldn't find it. So I was lost in that little valley going back and forth, trying to find the trail. I had no signal down there. And I'm like, what is happening right now? Where is this trail? And I think to the point is that I decided I'm not quitting. I'm going to figure out how to run it in my mom's arm. But I was starting to get really frustrated because I'm like, I don't even know where to go. So I finally found this trail. I went straight up, and I should have been better about communicating to you and the race team of my plans. And I just set up my tent and slept, or bivvy, I should say. I just said, you know what? I'm going to take a nap. It
And
was
you slept for
cold.
a while.
I think I slept around 8 hours. The best sleep was between like 7 and 9, or whenever the sun came out.
Mhm.
I mean, I finally like slept. I mean, most of us did not prepare right. I was thinking the lows were 40s, so I brought a 50 sleeping bag. It was cold for 20s. Um,
Yeah.
and I just slept, and I just let go of any. And I remember seeing second place about 2 hours later. I don't even know who it was. I don't know. And eventually I fell asleep, so I'm not sure who else came by. But it's what I needed. I just needed to like reset my brain.
Yeah. And then you got up in the morning and you showed up at Lebo Vista,
Yeah.
and we had a nice little chat and gave you some things to eat, and you went off on your way. And then, as I said to you, I said to my wife who was with me, I said, I'm not letting Chad go out tonight alone, so I'm going to jump in and pace him tonight. And I joined you right at dusk, and we went down Brown's Run, and started to rain on us and get really cold and miserable. I almost fell about 30 feet into the creek twice.
Yeah. Pucker factor on that moment was a high.
That whole trail just caved away from me and left me hanging.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I thought you were going to definitely fall into and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it.
Yeah. At
Yeah.
one point, you fell in the creek and you were sitting on your butt in 4 inches of water.
Yeah.
And you know what, dude? What I loved about that moment was you stood up and you were like, well, that was uncomfortable. Like, you didn't swear. You didn't, like, I couldn't believe how casual you took having just taken a dunk in the creek. It was
Yeah.
really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, thank God to Gorewear, man. That jacket that Gorewear gave me, like during the rain, kept my upper body, my core, my arms warm. I mean, my legs kind of liked the cold a little bit just because, they've been running, and I don't know what mile we were at, but man, it was an honor to run with you. It was great to share trails. And the one thing I've loved about our friendship is that I think you and I have had some of our best talks while navigating trails somewhere, like in Colorado when we went and found Jeff Smock's phone. It was probably
Yeah.
some of the best. I could just see your vision of the Warrior Trail Foundation and how important this is for veterans, and how, and then now to put your, words where your money is, you just joined me on the trail. It was magic. It was like we were back on the Colorado Trail, just doing what we do, what we love. It wasn't in the same place for the same reason, but sharing miles with you has always been enjoyable. So thank you. Thanks for getting me. You brought me into that town, whatever it was called.
Oh yeah, Waterville.
Waterville. Yeah, Waterville, man. You told me where the park was next to the general store, and it was cold and wet, and I slept again. This time I had a little more focused sleep.
Yeah.
And
You know,
like that town, I needed that town. I needed that general store the next morning. And I needed you that night, and I didn't realize it till later. I
yeah.
mean, how much I needed that.
It was the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood of trauma that night for sure. And we
Yeah.
had some awesome talks. One of the favorite discussions we had that night, I just want to bring it back up and remind you of it if you've forgotten, but we were talking about life as a combat veteran with PTSD, right? And you said one of the most perfect statements that night. You were like, yes, I'm a combat vet with PTSD, but it's not a label, and I don't want to be a label. And that, can you just talk a little bit about that? Because we discussed that night, but I really would love to hear once again your take on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we break down what even PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of people hate the word disorder because it means a lifetime of a symptom or a thing, and I could go either way. I don't really care if it's PTS or PTSD, whatever floats your boat. But we've all gone through something, in our life, a breakup, getting fired from a job, like a traumatic event, anything can cause this PTSD. The hard part for veterans is it's complex PTSD, and to also include like people that are abused constantly or whatever. The reason I don't like it as a label is because yes, we've been through hell. Yes, I am forever changed. My brain chemistry, like the way I got my concussions, or the way I've got my auditory tinnitus or whatever, yeah, some of those things are probably going to be there forever. But the one thing that I think that the label does is it totally discredits any positive thought or any focus that we should be focusing on people. And that's you run a successful business to include now starting a nonprofit. If we just focused on that you're just a broke person, label makes the combat veteran with PTSD means it means that you're not able. And at times, yeah, I am broken. It sometimes does break me. I'm not saying it doesn't. We don't get to choose those times, just like with grief, like of a loss of a family member or someone close. Like I said, I cried 2 days ago just because I wanted to call my mom.
Yeah.
Is this PTSD? Probably a little bit, just
Yeah.
from one event.
Chad, I lost my dad 10 years ago. He was my hero, my best friend, all wrapped up in one, and my father, of course. And, dude, I can tell you it's almost every week, sometimes almost every day, where I wish I could call my dad and tell him what happened yesterday or the stupid thing I did.
Yeah.
And man, I totally know what you're going through and empathize with you and know that, these stages of grief won't fade quickly. And frankly, man, I'm going to tell you, that's a great thing. It's a great thing because the longer it takes, the longer you're really, really close to your mom, and you'll always be your mama's boy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think, like in the race and after talking to Jordan, and saying, how do I honor my mom? I think was that's when the magic of the trail worked, and I learned to honor my mom on the trail of anybody I've talked to since then. And I'm still carrying on how can I honor my mom the most? And it's to share her message that impacted me the most. And that's her lesson that she gave me of bitter or better. That every choice in life, every situation in life, you either become bitter or better. And I have shared that with as many people. It's an amazing lesson that I don't think very many people have ever gotten, because I'm getting a lot of really good feedback that I need to share that part of her. I need to
Yeah,
share that part that she just instilled in me. And that's why I like calling her on the phone. It's like, hey, you sound a little bitter. Do you want to be better? Let's talk about what it takes, and if, so
Chad,
that's,
you told me that when we were climbing up that last ridge, and I remember just stopping and looking at you and saying, "Wow, what a concise and absolutely perfect message to share with somebody," you know? And yeah, dude, I love it. I really love it. And I don't know, just so powerful. Such a powerful experience we had. So tell us the rest of that journey, because you slept for a while in Waterville. It was raining again. It took everything I had to leave you, but I actually felt like, okay, I've spent the last like 5 hours, 6 hours with this guy. It's almost daylight. I actually feel like he needs a little time. And I also wanted you to know that you could handle it on your own.
yeah,
Like it's tough love, a little thing. Like that's the hardest thing I always found about being an officer in the military, was being empathetic and leading from the front, but then also knowing when to step back and let your NCOs handle it and let your soldiers handle it and prove to themselves that they got it. So that's why I was intentional about the fact that I'm just like, I'm going to leave them for a little while. I'm going to
yeah,
be
I'm
really
really,
close by if he needs me, but I'm going to leave him for a while.
yeah, I think and it's not that I didn't want to be around you, but I think you're right. I think nature is what I needed. In my entire plan of the 110 was that I wanted to hit that town, Waterville or whatever it was called. And Waterville obviously runs on daylight hours only. And so, I mean, one of the best meals I had was at the general store of Waterville. Like I walked in, first off, I was like, I need a bathroom, because holy cow, I finally could sit down and use a toilet. It's just like the things that we take for granted out there, and wash my hands and, look at myself. It was the first time I saw myself since leaving the house at the start. And I was able to order a sandwich, an egg and cheese sandwich from the general store that they whipped up right then and there. I took my time to eat it. I wanted to savor it. I got a coffee, I got a Red Bull, and I got like Snickers and water. I don't know what it is about Snicker bars, but I loved them on the trail.
Yeah.
They were like my main fuel. I did not want gels. I didn't want scratch calories in a drink form. I just wanted
Yeah.
water, electrolyte pills, and Snickers. I don't know what it was about it, but I stocked myself up, and it's funny because I'm glad I bought extra, because I was running from there and just leaving town just feeling refreshed and full and ready to run the last 22 miles. I don't know what part of the trail it was. It was like on like a Jeep road or something of some sort. And all of a sudden I'm like, there's someone way up there in the distance, like I saw somebody. I'm like, oh, I'm catching people. But the first thing was because I was moving good.
Yeah.
I wasn't moving slow. I was moving
Right.
decent speeds. Um, and come to find out it was Katie. It was Katie was trying to, like, I don't know what she was trying to do. She's trying to get mileage somehow. And anyway, and we just kind of talked for a minute. And I'm like, she's like, I got 10 miles left. You can get 10 miles there if you want them. And she's like, I only got these many calories. And I'm like, well, I got a lot of extra Snickers. You want one? So I gave her a Snickers, and holy cow, it was hard. It was actually hard to keep up with her on the climbs.
Yeah.
She impressed me the most on the climbs. Oh, don't get me wrong. She ran downhill. We ran down.
Yeah.
And that's what I was really glad that I was able to run the downhill, because there is a lot of, towards the end, you do get to run back into that town of Woolwich.
Yeah.
And just sharing her story and seeing how good of a runner she was, and staying in touch with her since then has been really magical.
Awesome.
I want to see her come back and crush this thing, and I think she's gonna. And I think she could really set the bar for the women's field.
Mm-hmm.
I've also talked with, the coach that you guys have given me, Brittany, about getting her butt out there. I'm like, you need to come see these. Those trails are beautiful.
Yeah.
They're beautiful and they're magical, and the views just never get boring. And I see your vision of why you wanted to do it where you did it, because it's not commercialized. It's about being in nature and
In a
being,
family event,
yeah, yeah.
right?
And the finish line, holy cow, to end up on the porch of that house in Woolwich with,
Yeah.
all of you still there. most of the racers were there, whether they DNF'd, they won the race, they finished the race. I mean, and then to shower and go to dinner. Now the heart, I don't know what it was about. Couldn't walk to dinner very well or from dinner very well. That was the only time I had a hard time walking during that
Yeah.
whole time. I don't know why it was then. I'm glad it was then and not out on the race. I don't know what my final finish time was. I don't know. I just know you have 70 hours to do 110 miles, and I was in the 60s.
Yeah.
And, they joke. You hear this with the people, that are like, towards the end of the pack that always say this joke of, well, I got it, I paid for this, so I want it all. And that's kind of how I felt. I kind of felt like, hey, I got to really see these trails.
Yeah.
And I really got to enjoy them versus just running for 36 hours straight or 30 hours straight or whatever without, I want to
Now,
come back. That's coming back to this race. I
I
hope
know
to
you.
bring some more people.
I know you are. And I can just tell you, Chad, I mean, your story was a big part of it, but we had so many amazing stories at this race. It's not a race. It's a joke to call it a race, in all honesty. I mean, this is a family gathering of people of like mind who are willing to take on one of the hardest courses. I won't say this is the hardest thing in the United States, but I will say if you combine the weather challenges, if you combine the fact that we don't mark the course and you have to navigate using, the blazes on the trees, and like this is the way I feel trail running probably started. I feel like this is what I want to bring back to trail running. This is not grassroots by laziness, but grassroots by intent. We really love to hear people say it was so interesting. Like Katie herself was like, I said, should we go into the donut hole and cut down all those trees that are down and clear the trail up more? She's like, no, leave it. Leave it. It's awesome. It's awesome. She said, like, it's like an obstacle course wrapped up in a navigation course, wrapped up in a thing. She wants to learn how to read a map and read a compass and learn how to truly navigate and not have to depend on her phone. That's awesome, right? And that,
Yeah, I think and just to give the listeners an understanding of how hard that is like I'm used to trees when they fall, they break. These trees don't break. It's like the whole root system comes up with them. So like it's like hardly going around them or over them. It's usually having to go around them.
yeah,
And that's what makes it challenging is that the
you go
donut
around them and
hole
you
and
can't find the trail on the other side.
yeah, I know. Believe me, I know those two segments that we talked about. I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head. Like Wildcat or something or
Yeah, Wildcat Lebo Trail.
oh my goodness, those valleys were full of down trees. And it was that we all experienced that, like the 220s, the 110. I mean, it caused people to drop those two segments. I mean that if anything, I want to go out there and do a day to where that area, I think we should clear a few of them. I'm not saying that like all of them, but
You're trying to
definitely,
make it soft.
there's not, that
Yeah, no, I'm just
that was
kidding.
supposed to be a nice, gentle downhill.
I know. Well, there's no such thing as a nice gentle downhill in there.
No,
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 it's
I
that Wolf
think that
Path
that's what
Trail.
makes, yeah, go ahead.
That Wolf Path Trail that you and I went down that night. That upper section is gnarly.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like a 45-degree slope on loose leaves and loose rocks.
Yeah. Yeah. This is not for the faintest. This race, this trail, like, you gotta have some experience and you gotta be a little tough. And if you can't handle scratches, then it's not your place. It's like my legs were beat up. I ran into bushes. I got off trail. Like, as GPS and real trails and likes to like make straight lines sometimes. And the trail's not a straight line. And so trusting the blazes, but those blazes at night get really hard to see. The orange is an amazing color on the day, and at night it just blends in real well. It's weird. You'd think that orange would stick out, and it doesn't.
No.
Not as well as I thought it would. I hope that I know you want to keep it small, but I'm hoping the opposite for you. I'm hoping this becomes a giant fundraiser that people are drawn to these trails to get to see what we're talking about, that have to learn a new challenge. navigating. I mean, technology does it for you if you have the right gear. I think the InReach is definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
Where you get the full screen one to take it off your phone, but that new InReach 3 with 10-minute intervals lasts like 350 hours. So you wouldn't even have to charge it,
Yeah.
in this race, which like, holy cow, I mean, and I've
But
used the
depending on how many wrong turns you take, you still might need to charge it.
yeah, that's true. I put myself in some definitely hairy situations trying to follow the GPS when I needed to just go down a little bit.
Sure.
But I'll tell you what, guys. I mean, this Warrior Trial Foundation is changing my life and changing my heart. And it's making me, not that I didn't find community in any other organization. I'm not discrediting any other community. I just think it's really cool to see how raw and rugged and real it is. It's like all the three things that it's not easy, and it's shown the world like some of the skills that, like you said, navigation that the military taught us.
Well, I think in closing, I'd just really like to tell you that I am blessed to have met you and blessed to have had you, become an active participant in our foundation as both a veteran athlete, as a trusted advisor, as somebody that we can go to and say, hey, Chad, this is what we're thinking about doing. What do you think about it? What do you think other veterans will think about it? It means the world to me, but most importantly, I just want you to know that not just I, but our whole team, we just love and appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Your story resonates for sure for me because I've lost my father, but it resonates with anybody who's ever lost a loved one. And I just want to commend you on your bravery, your fortitude, and your resilience to stick it out, tough it out throughout this event and every day, man. Every day, living your life as a sober, contributor to society who's out there getting it done and trying to make the most out of every day that has been granted to you because you were fortunate, as I am, one of the fortunate ones to make it home from our deployment overseas. So thanks, man.
Yeah, and I can't say enough to what you've given me with coaching and the Warrior Trail Foundation. All the people on the team, I've appreciated greatly. I've loved what's come of this. I really think that my next race, which I am on a fundraiser bid for the Warrior Trail Foundation, Sedona Canyons 125 in May, which is half the Cocodona 250 course. I was fortunate enough to get one of those bids. I am raising money for the Warrior Trail Foundation. I do believe in what Chris and the team is doing and what you've done for me, buddy. I've gotten to know you, and I do hope this thing grows, and I do hope we can reach more. And I look forward to all these rugged trails of Pennsylvania or Colorado or any of the projects that we do that you're in. I hope to be part of that and help and see this thing grow. So please stay in touch, and to just reiterate, what my mom would want you to know is that you can either be better or better.
Yep. Thanks, man. Well, in closing, I'll just point out to you or share with you, we just opened registration on a new Pennsylvania race today. That's going to happen on May 16th. It's a week after Sedona, so I doubt that you're going to want to jump on the plane and come out here and do it, but it's the Susquehannock Trail 83. Is that whole Susquehannock Trail up top that you ran about 30 miles of.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that full loop on May 16th as a fundraiser for our foundation. And I will see you at Cocodona because I am running Cocodona. We have our executive director, Isabella, running the Bradshaw Brute. We have another charity bib, Mike Coutu. He is running Cocodona as well. And we have another person coming in to help out with, I think it's going to be at Sedona Canyon. So all told, we're setting a goal across this team to raise $25,000 at Cocodona across that whole group of people I just mentioned. So hopefully that will be another family reunion for us all, man, at
Yeah.
Heritage Square in downtown Flagstaff, where we all get together and get that finishing photo together for all of us.
Yeah. And I'm stoked. I'm stoked that there's that many. I didn't realize there's that many.
Yep.
That's the best part about this Warrior Trail Foundation is that you can run races already out there through the Wonder Project, or you can come check out Pennsylvania and run some those STS trails that you said. Orange Blazes, man. Follow the Orange Blazes.
appreciate your time, Chad. So thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate you too. I hope nothing but the best, and happy holidays, brother.
Happy holidays.